Hi, and welcome to the history class. Today we're going to be discussing British imperialism in Africa, and Nigeria in specific. So, let's dive right in. Now, before Africa was imperialized by Europeans, the first Europeans to arrive were missionaries, explorers, and others. Reporters were sent worldwide to find the most exciting stories, and of course, some went to Africa. For example, David Livingstone was a missionary from Scotland that went to deep Africa. He was presumed dead after he didn't return to England. But thankfully, Henry Stanley, a reporter, went and found him. Anyway, these were among the first Europeans to arrive in the African continent. Now, continuing on, Nigeria was imperialized by Britain through military force. Now, Nigeria was very diverse at the time and had about 250 ethnic groups. There were three, however, main ethnic groups in Nigeria: House of Fulani, Igbo, and the Yoruba. Some local groups accepted British treaties while others rebelled. The House of Fulani leaders worked well with the British, but the Igbo and Yoruba did not like having their power limited and rebelled. What was the result, you ask? British stayed in power. Duh. So, before I go on with the video, I'm going to be making two paths that will meet. You'll see what I mean later. So, here we're going to start our first path. Now, an important part of Nigeria is a Nigerian city. It's called Lagos. Lagos, I'm not sure. Now, Lagos today is Nigeria's biggest city and was the capital of Nigeria until 1991 when they changed it to Abuja. Now, the reason why Lagos is such an important city is because it was the first colony created by Britain in Nigeria. Yep, you heard me. Lagos colony was named after the city of Lagos, but it included much more land. Now, one of the reasons why the Lagos colony was created was in an attempt to stop the civil wars that were going on in the Yoruba land, because the Yoruba land was made up of many different states and they were having these civil wars. Not going to get too much into it, but yeah. Now, Lagos was declared a colony in 1862, and by 1872 it was a cosmopolitan trading center with a population of over 60,000. And in 1890 to 1897, the colony expanded to include most of the Yoruba land. Can't believe that's actually a word. Yep, Yoruba land is a word. Now, our second path begins with Sir George Dashwood Goldie. Oh, whoops, I missed one. Sir George Dashwood Tubman Goldie. He was a crucial part of the creation of the colony and protectorate of Nigeria, which we'll get to later. He traveled all around parts of Africa, and he visited Niger for the first time in 1877. Now, what he really wanted to do was to add Nigeria to the British Empire, which very little was known about at the time. For 20 years, Goldie worked on raising awareness for this area of Nigeria to the British Empire. At the time, there were already trading companies that were officially chartered by Britain in this area, such as the West African Company, the Central African Company, and another firm which we don't know the name of. Now, Goldie's method to raise the recognition or the awareness was to get all the trading companies in the area and unify them. So, he successfully unified the WAC, the CAC, and the other firm into the United African Company, or the UAC. Now, the UAC saw immediate competition in the region, with two other French trading firms or companies, and another English one, the Liverpool and Manchester Trading Company. Goldie invested £100,000 into the company, and later invested £1 million in 1882 in a new concern, the National African Company, which bought up the UAC and its interests. Now, the same year, Léon Gambetta, a French statesman who had the French government basically help fund the two French trading companies in Nigeria, died. And this stopped the funding of these French trading companies. This deprived the French companies, who were encouraged by Gambetta to be in Nigeria, of government funding and support. Now, the NAC maintained 30 trading posts along the Niger River because there was barely any competition at this point from the French. And they also made sure to buy out all all sounds like a lot, but no. The two French trading companies. So they basically created a monopoly for themselves. Now, there was of course a reason for this timing, 1884. Goldie knew that in 1885, the next year, the Berlin Conference was happening. And the Berlin Conference was basically a meeting between all the European countries that colonized Africa. Now, because Africa was such a huge continent with so many European countries trying to come in and colonize, they needed a meeting to basically say, okay, this land that we claimed before is now officially ours. Setting territories at the Berlin Conference made it official, and making it official meant no other country could come in and colonize it. Now by this point, the NAC had over 400 treaties with local leaders of tribes stating that they can only trade through or with the NAC's agents. Now Goldie was also at the Berlin Conference and pledged with other diplomats that tariffs should be placed in their territory. Now the tariffs and the license fees that were passed totally monopolized the area. The monopoly of the NAC was so great that there was an African king, Jaja Avopobo, who organized his own trading network and even began running his own shipments of palm oil to the British Empire. But guess what? He was lured onto a British warship and he was sent to St. Vincent on charges of treaty breaking and obstructing commerce. And of course, the NAC at the Berlin Conference. Now the NAC's annual report in the Berlin Conference is that it remained, quote, alone in undisputed commercial possession of the Niger-Benue region. Here is a basic reproduction of a part of the Berlin Conference. Alright, welcome everyone. Why don't we all sit down here and discuss setting our territories in Africa while we have had some terribly gruesome wars, yes? Oh, my fellow Europeans, I was talking about the wars in Africa. Here, we're all friends!
This was a good one, my friend!
Right, so France, we do see that you have a claim to much of northwestern Africa. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right, well, we all do concur to officially grant this your territory.
Oh, thank you, we do appreciate it.
Now, German Empire, we do see that you have the claim to Cameroon. Right, we all do agree to set this as your territory.
Oh, danke, danke.
Right, now, our first claim is the claim in Nigeria. If anyone has any disagreements or does not oblige, please speak now.
Yes, we did have the claim to...
Actually, we remain in full commercial possession of the Niger-Benue region. I'm sure you do understand that, France.
No, I'm not sure I do understand. We had two French trading companies in the south of Nigeria. How do I put this simply? Yes, well, we kind of just bought them out. So there's kind of just nothing left there.
What? But,
But, monsieur, I'm sorry.
Well, I think that settles it. Now, in 1886, the National African Company changed its name to the Royal Niger Company. And on the border of Nigeria was Cameroon, which was the German colony. And there was another nearby area that was French. So remember, the Royal Niger Company, at this point, was still privately owned. And it would be hard for the NAC, which owned a lot of land, to continue prospering or even existing when German and French protectorates were on the borders. So on January 1st, 1900, the company was sold to and transferred all its territories to the British government for £865,000. Now, remember, that is a lot more than it is today. This is literally early 1900s. Now, the territories of the Royal Niger Company and a small other protectorate in the south of Nigeria on the coast, called the Niger Coast Protectorate. Yeah, it would probably not be called small, even if it was small. The Royal Niger Company and another small protectorate called the Niger Coast Protectorate in 1900, the same year, formed the Southern Nigeria Protectorate. And that same year, 1900, the Northern Nigeria Protectorate was formed. So Nigeria was split between the Northern Nigeria Protectorate and the Southern Nigeria Protectorate. But the British government saw that the Northern Nigeria Protectorate had a budget deficit, and the Southern Nigeria Protectorate had a surplus budget. So in 1914, both protectorates were combined to create the Colony and Protectorate of Nigeria. And to conclude our story, British colonization of Nigeria lasted from 1901 to 1960. An independence movement brought the Nigerian people to rebel against the British colonization and the British left in 1960. Independence for Nigeria. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.